big return ultimate, unstoppable force as well, but he goes down. A double kill for Raheen. Flash forward from APA. He wants to clean house, but he goes golden. Gorika's in the back line, and the team is gone. Just like that. Poof! There's a magic trick.
This is a turn fight for Barrage. PCL getting focused on Strampus now. Flashing over the wall. Winter misses. Strampus goes just nuts and picks up the triple kill.
Again, this is disgusting. Tuesday, please forgive me for this.
God, that was, oh my goodness.
Mine, Flash.
Oh my god.
Alright, that's the two-man A-bomb coming out from the Silas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Academy stream. This is the Unified Grand Prix. And for those that haven't been following the Proving Ground circuit, this is the first Tier 1 tournament halfway through the Proving Ground circuit overall as we are getting ready to put together the final 16 teams that will be playing in the Proving Grounds event in April. And with this first Tier 1, we're going to be seeing some of the best of the amateur teams that have come out over a grueling process of 3 Tier 2 tournaments in Risen Big and Challengers Uprising, and be taking on some of the Academy teams that did not finish in the top 6 in TSM Academy and CLG Academy. But before we get to any farther, let's get some introductions. My name is Mark Rafa Alexander Aramvide, and joining me on the desk for the next few days here will be my good longtime colleague, Dimitri Alk-Battery Toledo, who... Where are you, by the way? I just looked at your set. What is going on there?
Yeah, I had to fly back. I had to fly back to the world set. They wanted me on. UGP had a huge broadcast, and they had a huge budget, so they flew me back out. They got me inside of the studio.
Nice.
I see that you're still over there in winter time. You still got your Christmas tree, I see.
Oh, okay, listen, buddy. When we've got amateur tournaments almost every single day, every day feels like Christmas here, man. We got to see the best of what NA has to offer, the next generation of talent that should be invested in and should not be overlooked, as I hope many LCS orgs are watching over these next few days and over the course of this remaining few days of the month and the next 2 months, because there's a lot of players that we'll be keeping track of that should be considered being piped into the rest of the scene going into Academy and potentially one day the LCS. But we need to recap and look at the bracket that we have going into this Tier 1 tournament for the Unified Grand Prix. For the first day, which is the 4 matches that we have today, it is what is a play-in stage, and it's single elimination. So between Revival Winthrop, Barrage C9 Amateur, Zeus Gaming Supernova, and EG Prodigies and Maryville, in each of those matches, one of those teams is going to be going home after their best of 3. And then afterwards, the winner will be proceeding into the next round starting tomorrow. And from there, it will be a double elimination bracket. Now, me and Dimitri thought it would be a little fun to kind of actually, we'll get
Look at
into
this
that
video, man.
bit.
I miss Kangus's voice. He has such a dreamy voice. It's obviously the top 12, right? We also have the 7th and 8th place Academy teams playing. And then as you can see, we're going to go through that double elimination bracket that Rafa brought up. First round is going to be very fun. We got the play-ins, and this first round should be the round of upsets. And after this, the top 4 teams will be going over to Proving Grounds. And obviously, there you go. You see all the days, the 22nd, the 23rd through the 25th. And then the first 3 days of March will be the end of our broadcast. We'll be showing the lower finals, grand finals, and the winners finals as well. And I'm excited because this bracket has a lot of great teams. And those that don't make it are going to be going over to that next tier 2 or next tier 1, sorry. And it'll be very interesting to see. A lot of great teams, I think, are going to be knocked out pretty early on.
I'm going to ask our lovely producer, Tony, by the way, to go back to the original bracket graphic because we have a little something planned out for you as we... All right, so me and Dimitri last night were kind of going through the teams and thinking, okay, who's going to come out on top? And we decided to have a little fun with it. So I want to roll Dimitri's prediction graphic as we're kind of going with a little bit of a March Madness here. And so I want you to explain some of your choices here, Dimitri, as these are some of your predicted winners as we will be keeping track and seeing who actually comes out on top over the next few days.
Yeah, the biggest ones for me, I think a lot of people would have a lot of eyes on, are going to be our matches today, actually, with Winthrop beating out Revival and Zeus Gaming falling to Supernova. You look at some of these rosters, I think when you look at Revival, a lot of people would probably say, Dimitri, what is this? Revival is going to be the better team. I know some of our fellow analysts are so calling me crazy for this, but I have high hopes for Winthrop. And going across the bracket, Supernova as well have been looking really, really good. I don't think they're going to be able to match up against CLG in that match 7 tomorrow, which is with that RJS and Keel roster people have been seeing in Academy. So far, it's been looking really good. Coming in, we're going to probably see a lot more of our top 3 teams from Amateur. I have a lot of faith in these boys and a lot of faith that our top 3 in Solafide, Barrage, and No Org will be able to take down some of the other Academy rosters as we see maybe going on later into the series. So I know a lot of people are probably going to be expecting the same top 2, and I know you have a much more all over the place bracket.
Yo, okay. You say it's all over the place. I say it's the right choice because this is the Galaxy Brain IQ prediction bracket that I've put together here, and I'm going to tell you why. Because first of all, when we look at some of the best amateur teams that are coming into this bracket, we look at the academy teams that are being sent here. I don't want to discredit to them. There's some fantastic players in those rosters, but overall as a team unit, Revival and Supernova have been ramping up over the course of some of the tier 2 tournaments, and that's why Revival, once they beat Winthrop, they're going to take down TSM Academy. Unfortunately, Barrage is a better team than Revival, so they will lose in that regards. It's the same thing with Supernova. Supernova are actually going to be CLG Academy. I'm very, very, very confident. And as we get into our Supernova and Zeus Gaming matchup later tonight, or actually in just a little, probably about 30-ish minutes, just looking at my watch here. Soon, TM, right? We will explain what strengths Supernova have to offer and how they'll be playing through, which I think they will be able to match up against what CLG Academy has to offer. And I know a lot of people in chat are probably like, oh, these guys are crazy. How are they analysts? Just, you know what? Just wait, folks, and we'll see the magic happen. But
the scouts know best.
The scouts do know best. The scouts are watching. But feel free to add us on Twitter if you think we're wrong, and we would love to see what your prediction brackets are. We don't have a template for you to use, but just feel free to go back, clip it, take a screenshot, do
make
it.
Fun of us,
make fun of us, flame us. We don't care. We love banter and we love conversation as well. And because that means the more conversation that talks about amateur, the better it is for overall in terms of exposure for the players that deserve to have a chance to be put in the spotlight. But to review how we got here in the first place, we need to go back and check out all the tier 2 tournaments that did happen over the past 5 weeks, starting with Risen back in January. For this, we saw Solafide emerge as the overall first place winner, with them beating EG Prodigies in the finals, and then Barrage and A New Blaze, who is now known as rebranded as Zeus Gaming, as 3rd and 4th, respectively, Dimitri.
Yeah, Solafide look really good. I think we may have the big league finals mixed up or something like that. Maybe it's just names. It's just names. Don't look at that last one. It's okay. Solafide coming into this bracket, we were taking a look at it. I had a lot of high hopes. Risen just feels like it was such a long time ago. This is the first time we actually got to see some of the new orgs coming in. Zeus Gaming, who was obviously that A New Blaze roster, ended up taking down No Org and knocked them out of the playoffs and quarterfinals. This is when we got to see that Barrage versus Solafide rivalry really start to kick in, as they were the definitive semifinals that we had wanted to watch. And with Solafide end up winning the tournament, it just continued to cement that idea at the beginning of the year that this team coming in with Dokla, Winston, with Tuesday, and with Apollo and Zazel, that it was the team to beat. And coming out of tier 2, coming out of Risen, we are very excited to see where Solafide we're going to stack up continuously against our amateur lads.
And then we head on over to the big league results for that tier 2 tournament, where we got to see. All right, cool.
There we go.
There we go. Nice.
It's
all right,
fixed.
So,
let's go.
We just wanted to make sure that the numbers matched up with the teams. Here we saw a surgence of Maryville University, which was a team that did not get to participate in Risen because their entire full roster was not ready yet. But it meant for Maryville that they had more on the line and more to prove, since they were essentially walking in without a tournament's worth of points. And the fact that they were able to come in and secure a spot into the Tier 1 Proving Grounds just off the strength of this tournament and cup alone goes to show that they are a dark horse that should not be slept on either.
I was going to say, as soon as they came in, I know their coach Zoo had a lot of question marks on whether or not they were actually going to make it, but as soon as they came out of Big, they needed to win a single game in Cup to qualify for Tier 1, which is really impressive. They weren't able to quite make it into playoffs, but looking at this big league season, it was a lot of tumultuous gameplay coming in. We obviously have best of threes going up until quarters, or semis, sorry, and we got to see really great games. That Barrage, a new one in semifinal, was really, really strong, and coming in, I think, like you were saying, Maryville as the dark horse, no one had a lot of eyes on them, and coming into playoffs, they were looking to be the ones that go all the way to finals, and that's when we start to see Revival make their appearance yet again, and they make a really deep run into playoffs. Now, they do fall to NoOrg 3-0, and that's when we start to see NoOrg basically become the top dogs here in Amateur. It took them a little bit of time to start to gel together. Obviously, getting knocked out of quarters gave them a little bit of that time, but once they started to tick away, it was basically game over for a lot of other kind of teams. NoOrg just started winning all of these tournaments going into Tier 2.
And it was from that point when they dropped the quarterfinal match against Zeus Gaming back in Risen that we got a chance to actually speak with some of the players throughout the big tournament in Viper and Vifire, and they told us that after that quarterfinal loss, they said, all right, you know what? We need to start locking down and start being able to gel together as a team, and they had gone on a undefeated to this day series record of now 13 overall. They had a 10-game winning streak until they did lose one over in their set against Golden Guardians Academy during the Challengers Uprising, which we can show up on screen as well for the Cup results. NoOrg eventually was the winner. Now, guys, if you didn't get a chance to see the NoOrg Barrage series last night on Cup, I definitely recommend you go check it out at some point because it was a hell of a series. It was a hell of a showing from Barrage. Unfortunately, the fifth game did kind of end in a unfortunate manner when Fanatics, the jungler for Barrage's power surge, went out. But, you know, it was from a winning standpoint from NoOrg, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it just means that Barrage are going to be coming in with a lot to prove to show that, hey, you know what? If that power surge hadn't gone out, you know, there's definitely a chance that we could have won that game. And it's now going to be in this Tier 1 where they have to make up for it.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it. We've got a lot of great games. Obviously, we are going to be seeing Supernova versus Zeus Gaming coming up first. And with this, we're looking at Barrage and Solifide. They're now 1-1 versus each other. This is Supernova first appearance in playoffs in Cup. And our top three teams, NoOrg, Barrage, and Solifide, are 100% ready to take on these Academy teams.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we have recapped, for everyone that didn't get a chance to catch up on all the Proving Grounds action or the Tier 2 madness that we had seen over the past few weeks, we do have a quick little video demonstrating some of UGP's favorite plays throughout the Proving Grounds season, and we will be back in just a few moments after the video.
Ready, potentially in some trouble. Look who's hanging around here. It's Goo. They want to try and make something happen. Here comes the flash. There's the seismic shove. Good flash away from Zeno, and he's turned it around. Oh,
all the drain that you were able to pull just off the back of the death of the Renekton was enough to win the fight. Now even Flux is going to get punished on his way back. Oh, nice flash.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Wait, the Killer Instinct!
Does not know what's up.
No.
Will you be able to get over the wall? The ultimate keeps in sight. Full dive in.
Hero's entrance into the backline. RBM in the front line trying to do as much damage as possible. Apollo flashes over the wall and will be seen here. Apollo shut down in the bottom side of the fight. And now Dokla getting chased away. The triple for Alorum. Urgot, the grab god. Alorum finds a quadra kill.
From Jim, how to get away from that 3v5. They continue to look for this, continue to fight. They haven't gotten the pick that they need to on to Volibear, but they got it onto John. Bono was able to go back underneath the turret. They're trying to see if they can take down more. Remember, Kayami being so low, the turret take up for a long time, and look at how low his EDR is. Look at how low Bono is. Look at how low Bono is. They continue to move back in, but they die in the fight. Losing
Robbie!
Looking for a couple more.
Kayami!
And down. Everyone's down.
Robbie!
How they did it, I don't know, but a triple kill came in for Groundhog.
A GA saves this game. It is that close. King with a deep dive starts this fight, and it's beautiful. Check out how quickly this fight splits. You have the full focus from Meech. He goes in with the killer instinct, gets headbutted away, finds his way out of the fight, and just deletes Goodly. That's Tally. Dives Meech up on the top side, and Meech manages to stay strong thanks to this stun coming up from King. Dur with 1 HP finds a massive Q stun, and the entire team from Mirage coalesces around it, keeping Meech alive. That is their only win condition.
It got a little sloppy around here, but the damage from Meech's Q was enough. Just the Acathian Rain. Watch it pop Prismal in basically one shot. There it goes, auto, Acathian Rain. Prismal's dead. He's just gone.
Maddie just again dancing around, doing a great job here. As turrets will fall in the top lane, so the Gnar will be able to have teleport as the Ornhorn comes in to try to find Strompus. He does go golden, but there's a massive sleep coming in from Maddie to keep his team alive. Maddie ends up picking up another.
2018, we started the LCS as a franchise league. We had shut down the open qualifiers, promotion relegation was gone, and we replaced that with the Academy League. And the goal of the Academy League was to develop up-and-coming talent in North America so that our LCS teams had a constant pool to pull from as they attempted to better their teams and develop talent. That didn't really hit our goals in 2018, so we started to look at ways that we could refresh the system. So we started working with Faceit, and Faceit ran the Faceit scouting grounds for us. I believe 2019 and 2020, my kind of time in COVID is all kind of blended together for me. But they were running a scouting ground circuit that allowed teams of 5 to play in through various amateur competition and wind up at our scouting grounds event with the goal of having those players get noticed and recognized. They would work through scouting grounds with professional coaches and analysts, and hopefully would wind up on a team. And for the most part, that was successful, but it still wasn't hitting all of our marks, right? We realized that we did a lot of damage to the amateur ecosystem in 2018 when we closed everything off, right? We just didn't give that scene the attention or the consideration that it deserved. So the move to Faceit was some recognition of that. We wanted to provide some path for amateur teams to begin to develop talent, to get their name and brand on broadcast. So we carried that through to scouting grounds and to continue to foster the scene. So sometime in the middle of last year, we sat down and decided to look for a revamp on the amateur and academy system again. It still wasn't hitting the goals that we had to continue to develop talent in North America and create what really is an aspirational path for talent. So out of that came Proving Grounds. So we cut the academy season in half so that academy teams would have more freedom to go and play in third-party amateur tournaments. We thought that would be good for the academy teams, right? They can go out and try to win some prize pools, play against some varied competition. It's good for amateur tournament organizers who now have LCS brands that are playing in their tournament. It's good for developing amateur players because now they're not just limited to solo queue to play against pro players or aspiring pro players. They're getting to play actual 5-on-5 games against academy players, and they matter, right? You can win. You win tournaments, you win prize pools, you win a chance to go play in Proving Grounds. Proving Grounds itself is a tournament that's going to be played after the conclusion of the LCS Spring Split in the middle of April, and it's going to continue on for a couple of weeks past that. The idea of it is that we're going to take the top 16 teams, kind of sub-LCS, so it's academy teams and amateur teams, and we're going to put them in a tournament against each other, and they're going to play through to win both a trophy and a prize pool. Right? The idea here being that if we open up the ecosystem a lot more than we have in the past and give amateur teams an opportunity to come in and play against academy teams, not only will they get better, but we'll get more visibility on those teams and players and hopefully kind of raise the tide and raise all boats in the ecosystem overall. So your actual question was whether it was hitting our goals. We don't know yet. So far, so good. The T2 tournaments, the Tier 2 tournaments have been great so far. Have been super entertaining to watch. We're getting good feedback. We found problems in the system, right? Things that we didn't think about when we were building the system, that the LCS teams didn't think about when we were building the system, that we're now trying to fix going forward. But we feel good about where we are. We're getting ready to kick off Tier 1 tournaments. We're going to start qualifying some teams into Proving Grounds. We now have our 6 academy teams that have qualified in, and we're going to be looking to qualify the additional 10 teams that will play them in Proving Grounds at the end. So we feel good so far, but still little ways to go before we can sit down at the end of spring and evaluate whether this did everything that we wanted it to. Most of the observations we've taken back so far have been around the academy teams, right? Because as you noted, their season just wrapped up. Their spring split just wrapped up yesterday. So, right now we have 6 academy teams that don't have a competitive game to play for the next 5 weeks. Like that's a problem, right? There's we're going to have 2 patches in that time. There's going to be meta shifts, and we want to make sure that those teams are finding some competitive outlet that's not just scrimming the same 5 teams over and over again. So we're talking to team owners about what that might look like. At the same time, we do want the community focused on the Tier 1 tournaments that are going to be happening over the next 5 weeks. I think it's going to be kind of an exciting end to our amateur split as we're qualifying teams into Proving Grounds. So if I had to call out one thing that we're looking to change, that hole in the schedule would certainly be one. But as we're going forward, we're spending a lot of time talking to amateur teams, amateur players, and amateur tournament organizers to take their feedback and kind of sit down and retro what we've been doing so that we can make changes going forward. But I don't have anything more concrete in terms of the feedback we've been taking in and the adjustments that we'll make going forward. So the easiest way is generally Twitter. So kind of pinging us, pinging myself or Matt Naja, who was at CLG and has joined us and is overseeing Academy and Amateur going forward, Riot Whoopley, Zach Elliott, and Derek Dennis, Riot Ice Chest, pinging any of us or all of us in a tweet. DMs are a little harder, right? Sometimes I'll go into Twitter DMs or someone else on the team will and realize that someone that we're not following sent us a message 3 weeks ago and we just never saw it. But pinging someone in on a tweet and providing some feedback, whether it's directly in a Twitter thread or a link out to another document or just some general thoughts that we can follow up on are always good. I think right now we have some collegiate teams that are playing in our Tier 1 and Tier 2 tournaments, so they found their way in. But we are just this year we brought the competitive collegiate League of Legends space into the kind of LCS structure. So I mentioned Matt Naja a minute ago. He came over and joined us from CLG, where he was running esports for them for a couple of years, and it's now going to help us build a better and more cohesive amateur and scholastic ecosystem. So there may be some output of that where college and the amateur tournaments are more closely aligned. There's certainly a world in which they continue to run in parallel, and then there is the ability for collegiate teams to cross over and play in amateur. But I think we still have some work to do around that. Ultimately, we want to open as many doors as we can for people who want to play competitive League of Legends. So that that'll be our North Star as we continue to iterate and make changes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Griza, for being able to sit down with me and a few other UGP staff a few days ago to be able to kind of open up about the process and all the changes that LCS is trying to make towards improving the NA amateur ecosystem and making a pipeline and blurring the lines between academy and the best of amateur teams, just to show that, hey, we've got a talent pool here to open up. And one of the we have a very
talent.
That's right. We do, guys. We promise. And we actually have a very special guest that is going to be joining us for the duration of this first set as we get ready for the Supernova and Zeus Gaming in a familiar face, some of you might remember, in Mike Young here, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, welcome, homie.
Yo, what's up? Glad to be here.
Hell yeah. First of all, the first question I want to pitch towards you, Mike, is you just got a chance to see the video from Griza, and you are not only someone that has been in the LCS, but you also got to participate in the Scouting Ground circuit last year over on a new esports. So how would you say that Proving Grounds has changed for the better compared to when you were playing in the Scouting Ground circuit last year?
I think it's gotten really insane. It got really competitive compared to then. Last year, we were able to take first pretty convincingly in most of the tournaments. Yeah. But I think this year, there's a lot more competition. You can see a lot of more pros and like ex-pros and coming down, bringing up the skill level, but also like new talent coming up as well. And also it's nice to see like when some veterans or like some people that have like even half a year of LCS experience come and teach like the new players.
Yeah, I think that's something that you relate with a lot, as when you came onto that new roster, some of the players that you worked with either did have some academy experience in Shoryu and Rodov, and then there were some others who had either gotten very, very limited academy experience in Five Fire and Winter. And so we kind of want to ask you to go back and kind of relive some of your talking specifically about Five Fire, as he is one of the players that you're going to be seeing throughout the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really happy for him. Last year when we played together, we were able to take first, and we were like by far the best mid-jungle duo in amateur. And the funny thing was that when we first started playing together, I thought he was a really bad player. But then I really did think that he had a lot to work on. But the most incredible thing about that was he was improving scrim by scrim, and eventually at the end, he was just beating everybody. And he's like the mid laner. He's like the jungler's worst nightmare for mid lane. The guy plays to win lane, doesn't think about the enemy jungler, but I was able to help him out, and he really, really took my advice to heart, and I was able to actually like work with him on that, and I think he's by far one of the best mid laners in the circuit. So definitely keep an eye on him.
As we said before, throughout a Challengers Uprising during the season, Fire does not take up an import slot, So just saying, guys, he is all NA talent, completely domesticated. So moving forward, there's another player that you got to work with in Winter, and in fact, I had a conversation that he was thinking about retiring, but it was basically between you and Shoryu who pulled him back in. And now that he's playing on Barrage, how do you think his chances fare in this tournament, in the support pool?
I think Winter is a great player. I actually love all my teammates from a new last year. And that would be pretty much, Rodov, and then Five Fire, and then Shoryu and Winter. They were all just really great. I think they're really talented players. They have the work ethic. Everybody puts in the hours, and a lot of them are actually competing pretty actively right now, and they're still doing well. So I'm pretty proud of them.
I've got one question that I know Kelsey will probably ask later. Were you able to actually teach Five Fire or Rodov your jungle timers? That's the biggest thing. Were you able to get him to learn when you have to rotate for camps or no?
Yeah. No. The most insane thing that Aiden Firefire told me once was he's never played with a jungler that has demanded so much mid lane attention. Like when I call for invades, like he just has to leave lane and just instantly come to me. Like that's something that I think I had to teach him. Was he's one of the best mechanically skilled players that I know. But one thing that he didn't know as well was playing with the jungler. But I think it's been a year since now, right? So he's gotten even better than that. So in a year's time, that's like a ton of time to learn that. And even in a month with working with him, he was able to slowly fix that and improve. So, NA talent is real. You just need to put in the resources.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's just the talent is here. The pool is here to pull from. It just requires people to invest and have patience, because you have players that are mechanically talented, but as we've seen with the current Golden Guardians Academy roster, Rosethor and Yumbi have what it takes, but working with Prismal, they lack the kind of the competitive fundamentals, knowing these timers, knowing rotations and backings, things that might be strange for a casual audience, but for the competitive scene and for professional players, these are things that must be known. And so as they get better and better at that, then they're going to become seasoned enough to play on the LCS stage one day. And so moving forward, as we starting to shorten our scope towards this tournament specifically here, Mike, we know you're a jungler and you have the jungle experience and you are well versed. So we want to talk jungle with you. Well, Udyr, Lilia, and Olaf have been running rampant in a lot of these games, but there's been counter picks that have been popping up in response, and I want to see if we can get that graphic I want to run through your thoughts as a few of the junglers that have been coming up as an answer. Nocturne was one that primarily came out in full force with Barage's jungler, Fnatic. Dr. Mundo has also emerged throughout the world, and even Kayn has been getting some love as the Shadow Kayn build with Prowler's Claw and Manamune has been played both in LCS by Dardoch and in LCK by Canyon.
No, I love Kayn. I've been playing a ton of Kayn, and there's just so much skill expression on Kayn. And as for Mundo, I think he's just a pub stomper. I think he's pretty good. It's just really boring to watch, so I'm not a fan. I think Nocturne and Kayn are like my A to S tier looks.
Gotcha.
Okay. Every time I play against Kayn, this champion feels like if you're not red, you're dead. You're just honestly just sitting there perma-farming. And like you said, there's a lot of skill expression with this champion, especially with Prowler's Claw. You just get a free dash. You basically get to go behind the enemy opponent. You have so much available to you. I know you're probably not a fan of Mundo, but I know over on Revival Cyber, he's like, it's either Kha'Zix or Mundo at this point. He's farming Mundo wins at least in the amateur scene. The Nocturne thing, I know, Mark, we were talking about it for Barrage, that they have been playing it, and we got to see a little bit of it last night. So I'm wondering if it's only going to be a Barrage special, or if we're going to start to see some of these picks trickle down into amateur, because the biggest thing is, yes, these people are playing it either in ERLs or just across the world, but these amateur players need to start kind of opening their champion pools just a little bit more if they want to get some of their edges, because right now with our top three, it's really competitive, and I know that teams like Revival that are kind of breaking into that top 4, top 5 category, that they need to find unique ways and unique answers to some of these champions.
And I think Mundo is one of the most OP champions right now in solo queue, actually, but I'm not a fan of the farm to win, AFK farm to win type of champion. Let's be real here.
It's free elo, but we have to have morals. We can't do I give up my personal sake and enjoyment for the game to play Mundo? No.
Well, you're hearing it from Mike Young. If you are struggling to climb in your LP games and you're just trying to hit gold by the end of the season, or you're trying to hit diamond, definitely pick up the Mundo, definitely pick up the Udyr. But, if you're looking to be a little bit more fancy and show off some of that flair, Nocturne and
enjoy
Kayn,
the video game.
Yeah, actually enjoy. I don't know, man. We have some colleagues who the hands are no longer as prime as they used to be, so they enjoy playing these things. I know I look a lot better when I'm playing Udyr because I'm a boomer, so it happens, man.
Oh, okay.
But as we are getting ready for our matchup the first one of today. It is going to be Zeus Gaming taking on Supernova, and we want to dive into this jungle matchup with you, Mike. We have Maddie, someone who has hit rank 1 on the Challenger ladder this year, back in January, and RBM, who came off of a competitive break, coming onto this roster after the first iteration had City Witty, who renamed to Link for Zeus Gaming. This is a jungle matchup that's pretty interesting because, as we'll be able to get to hear from Maddie later on, is that for Supernova, Maddie is a player that is required to make an impact, and usually does, and is a factor in their wins. Whereas for RBM, he's kind of benefiting from the fact that most of his lanes are doing well, and he just gets a free pass to level 6 here, Mike.
Yeah, it's always an interesting dynamic because how your laners play really affects your jungle matchup as well. Because the thing that I always tell to my students, to my teammates, is that jungle is not just like a 1v1 role. You have to be played around if you're trying to make the most out of like your resources, or you have to play around your laners. It's like you cannot play the role just the AFK farm. You have to have an impact on the map, either through invading, getting objectives, or helping laners by getting ganks off, dives off.
You hear that, Mark? Take notes. He said students. You don't have to pay for this. You don't have to pay for this lesson. You don't have to play for this lesson.
Oh man, come on! I am just
when
here.
We get an 80 carry on
learn.
here, then I can get roasted. So.
All right, fine. I'll get you back for that one. But funny thing you mentioned 80 carries, because that is the other interesting matchup that we have for the Supernova and Zeus Gaming roster, is that some of the best unheard of, or I should say some of the best sleeper amateur talent is in Array for Supernova and Raheen respectively. Both of these players have been kind of on this upward trend where Array took a while to find his form, but then recently in their most recent matchup against Zeus Gaming, he popped off. Whereas Raheen is also just known being for a bona fide Kaisa maestro. He's someone that's super aggressive. And so, Ogg Battery, I want to kind of come to you to see how you think this matchup really plays out and how it depends on G Bunny, the support for Supernova, and for Pocket Rhino, respectively, for Zeus Gaming.
Yeah, the funny thing about bot lane, at least for this season, kind of the same thing with jungle, is there has been 1 to 2 champions that have basically ruled the pool, and then everybody else, like, you can just hide, right? Like, you don't have to be a fantastic player to play Kaisa. You don't have to be a fantastic player to play Olaf or Udyr. You just have to be good enough to kind of get carried by how good these champions are. I will say that Array and Raheen have done a fantastic job of kind of growing outside of that expectation. They've been doing really well inside of the circuit, and for Array, this is his big chance. He said that himself, he got shown up by Raheen in that matchup versus Zoo, and he doesn't want to let that happen. Whereas Raheen, I think, still has a lot to prove outside of Kaisa. He's been looking great on the champion, and he has some decent performances, but other than that, it is basically quiet all on the Raheen farm over there. And for the supports, Pocket Rhino has been someone that has been getting a lot of steam ever since last year being on Team Liquid Academy, and coming down here, he's been playing decently. I'm looking for him to really start to step it up, because this is the time when we start to see every single player rise to the occasion, get into that peak performance. And versus G Bunny, who's had so much competitive experience, it's going to be, I think, a really tough role for him.
And Mike, I want to let you jump in on this conversation too, because as we've seen ever since Season 4 Worlds, when Mata and Dandy worked hand in hand and being able to influence the map, how much does a support influence a jungler's choices during the first 15 minutes of the game?
I think it's the most important synergy in the game, actually. Jungle support synergy is probably number 1 above even jungle mid, because you can start roaming as a support, even starting at level 4. It's not realistic all the time, but it is pretty common here and there where a support tries to match up with the jungler to look for an invade, gank bottom, or gank mid. Because there's so many engaged supports these days, you can see it in LPL all the time, where the support is roaming mid constantly, nonstop, and walking with the jungler to get vision.
It's just for Pocket Rhino, he is someone that did come onto the roster after the Risen tournament once Breezy went over to C9 Amateur for that new roster going into the Big League tournament. But for G Bunny, even though he has been with the Supernova roster for one long time, we have to mention that he has had a tremendous amount of growth, considering the fact, Dog Battery, that he came from a different video game altogether. He was a Paladins player.
Paladins is fun. I just want to, just a quick aside, Paladins is fun. Sad for that game to go. But yeah, he's had a lot of experience. He took a little bit of a break, got to reinstall. I'm looking at this matchup, and I know a lot of people probably looking at Zeus. They have Alorum. They've got all these great players. I've got Supernova in the bag. They've got my heart, and I'm looking forward to see how close this series can be, because right now Supernova are on the upswing. Zoo did obviously lose that last matchup, but they have had time to wait throughout playoffs for Cup. And coming into this one, Supernova, I think, have a lot to prove. If they can beat these guys, then I think there's a real conversation around them being some of the better teams we have.
And as we're winding down this matchup, the last thing that we have to mention between Supernova and Zeus Gaming, there's a lot of exciting NA amateur talent between both of these rosters. But one of the things that we also need to mention is, as you know, going back to Mike Young's point, is having someone that has been in the academy of the LCS scene and providing that leadership and that veterancy. And for both of these rosters, it's Strompus in Supernova and Alorum respectively for Zeus Gaming. And Mike, I kind of want to get your thoughts on those two players, starting with Strompus, on how, you know, as someone who has gotten the chance to play against and with them in the past.
Yeah, so I think actually one of my favorites is the favorites of the matchup is actually Alorum's team. And this might be a bias for me because I was on Alorum's team on Phoenix 1. He was my sub top laner and he followed me to Rift Rivals. But I always thought he was really cool and he had a lot of talent that he wasn't able to showcase as a sub. As for Strompus, I have a lot of experience playing against him in solo queue. And, you know, he's always up there. I'm going to have to give it to Alorum here, though.
Okay. So, Mike already giving his prediction that Zeus Gaming will be coming out on top in this Supernova matchup. Alk, I would ask for your prediction, but we just saw your prediction bracket
Supernova.
About 20 minutes ago.
Get it out of here.
Both you and I are Supernova, so you know we'll have to see how this goes. But ladies and gentlemen, as we are getting ready to toss to our casters for the day in Mazel and Cubby, we actually got a chance to sit down with the jungler for Supernova and Maddie to get some of his thoughts about the matchup in today's game.
So my thoughts on RBM.
Welcome one and welcome all to the caster desk for day one of the Unified Grand Prix. I am Lennon Mazel White and I'm joined by my close friend Matt Cubby Samuelson, and we have the utmost honor to guide you all the way through this intense kickoff best of three between Zeus Gaming and Supernova.
So excited to be on the Slash Academy channel, and Mazel, it's been 6 grueling weeks for 32 teams that have competed to try and qualify for this Tier 1. We have 10 of the best teams that Amateur has to offer now, paired up with a couple Academy squads as well. And I'm just really excited to get into the action, and we are kicking off with some of the highest stakes matchups that we have for the entire tournament, right? The winner moves on to be a part of an 8-team double elimination bracket. The loser goes home and has to wait till Wisdom.
And it's just crazy that all this stuff, all this rolling around, just rolling straight into tournament after tournament, and then you lose here, it's over.
I know.
Like,
yeah,
it's so crazy. We talked about it a lot behind the scenes. Yeah, it is very rough. It's but hey, the best of the best will only prevail. And going into this, we do have some of these great teams coming up, with Zeus coming in as the favorite, definitely in this series, with the better seed. But the last time these two faced, Cubby, it was a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, Cup round in group, Supernova pulled what a lot of people saw as an upset. Some others saw it as Supernova kind of coming together as a team. They have some really nice pieces. I know the desk was talking a lot about Maddie, especially with Mike Young being on the desk and just taking advantage of his expertise as well in the jungle. A lot of focus is going to be around Maddie against RBM. On my radar for Supernova, I really like Array and G-Bunny. I think these guys are a really unique bot lane. This is their first split playing competitive. I've heard very good things from Array, even got to catch up with him earlier. Feels like Raheen got the best of him in the first set, but he really wants to bring it back. And G-Bunny is interesting too because This guy was a professional Paladins player, right? He's picked up League of Legends so quickly, and he does have a tendency still to make plays at the wrong times and sometimes get caught out. But when he is on point, when his timing is good, he has some really big, impactful engages coming out from the support role. And I think that bot lane is really interesting to watch for Supernova.
I think it is too, and the growth that we've seen from both of these bot lanes, honestly, throughout the tournament, and mostly, my sweet spot is on Raheen, but it's all good. We'll get into that a little bit later on our fights between the two, but I think going up against these two, Raheen and Pocket Rhino, Array and G-Bunny do have a tall task ahead of them, and they're going to need to use all this development, all these skills they've gained over this short period of months or so to really bring it to them, because we've seen, at least the last time when we were reviewing some of these series, it was a lot of focus for Maddie towards the bot side of the map, and I wonder if that's going to play out today as well. Yeah, getting G-Bunny and Array is definitely a way that Supernova can win. On the side of Zeus Gaming, and also taking a big step back as a whole, I think that this matchup's really unique because both teams are led by very distinct veterans in the scene, right? We have Strumpus for Supernova, and we have Alorum for the side of Zeus Gaming. They're really impactful. I mean, even like talking with both Darkwings and Array, they both spoke so highly of each player individually and the impact that they've had on their team and how they have been able to really help the team improve and grow as a whole. But it's also interesting because both these veterans have very unique styles. We saw Lorem in LCS. His most played so far in all of Proving Grounds is this Urgot. He's drawing a lot of Malphite, Scion bans. It's pretty much Aatrox and Urgot or a tank for the side of Alorum. Now, when you look at Strumpus, he's the Rise One trick, and he's undefeated on Seraphine, right? So he's playing a lot of these late game mages, and the meta is sort of shifting back into Strumpus's wheelhouse as well. And I wonder, I was talking to you a little bit about this beforehand, but I do feel like the match between Darkwings and Strumpus is going to be a big deal here. We said we got this rising star in Darkwings. Maybe his champion pool isn't the biggest or the deepest of oceans, but he plays these champions very, very well. And we will see that kind of affect this series as a whole, especially in this game number one. I want to see what they set these guys up with, because we talked about the mainstays for these teams. A lot of the jungle focus is the big one for me in this series, seeing where Really Big Meme is going to go, seeing what Maddie is going to be able to do as this catalyst for Supernova. But it's these individual pieces in the lanes that mean so much, especially when you're looking at these solo lanes in the mid and top. Yeah, and we were talking about how we feel like the bottom lane of Supernova is pretty good. I feel the same way about Zeus and Rhino, but I do give the edge actually to Array and G-Bunny. But meanwhile, on the top lane, Alorum is definitely a sort of a carry player, even though he plays a lot of tanks for the side of Zeus. A lot of the plays are made off of his back, whether that is him getting solo kills on Urgot or him TPing in with Scion or Malphite, right? Yeah, I was going to say the flanks on Urgot with the TPs are just so ridiculous. Meanwhile, Cavell, known for his Camille, likely going to see Camille bans coming out from Zeus Gaming, or if it's picked, it's going to be a Poppy from Alorum. But he is more of a supportive top laner, right? He's been playing the Gragas and the Karma, and because of that, it's funny, like, the damage, like, the responsibility to deal damage really falls onto Array for Supernova and Darkwings for the side of Zeus Gaming. Darkwings in Cup, our most recent tier 2, he was second in the entire, like, out of all mid laners with DPM, with 624 per minute. On the side of Array, he gets the majority of resources past 15. It was second in the entire tournament, getting more than 30% of the CS share. And a lot of the responsibility for the damage does fall on his shoulders. And both of these players, they're not the best laners, but they have really good team fight potential. So if it does get to those team fights, I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes out for Array and Darkwings. But as you mentioned, Mazel, we have to see how things can get started on the side of Maddie and RBM, because they are the catalysts that both these teams run through. Yeah, it really is. And they do have different approaches to how they are those catalysts, right? For RBM, it does seem like you need a bit of stability in the lanes. You need to be able to work around the map and execute your strategy in the way that you want, right? You need everything to kind of fall into place, where RBM does have these great outplays, but he plays best when Alorum and when Darkwings are having some success in their lanes. Whereas on Maddie's side, he's the one, he seemingly is trying to be a one-man show here. I mean, he is dominating with early advantages, early pressures, and being able to give those resources to the right areas, and especially Array. Yeah, and I think that as we, kind of dive deeper into what this matchup might look like, is actually the champion pool between the two is really interesting. RBM, a lot of the viewers at home may not know this. This guy was actually a challenger TFT player. And when Zeus Gaming was a new Blaze, there was an incident. They weren't able to really get a jungler. RBM kind of stepped in to help out. And it just so happens that
he's sticking around for tier 1s. Like at one
Yeah,
point,
he is.
Pukar tweeted that like, hey, we're looking for a new jungler, and RBM's like, you know what? We're going for it. Changed my mind. He's fully committed to League. And so he definitely has a more supportive role, but his Lilia has been fantastic. He's 8-2 on the pick throughout all Proving Grounds. And it just so happens to be tied with one of Maddie's most played as well. They share a very similar champion pool. I think it's important for Supernova to deny that Lilia, as RBM definitely looks much better on that pick compared to the rest of his pool. So we're going to have to see what ends up happening, and I'm really curious to dive into pick ban because there are a lot of shared pools between these teams, and then also the very unique champion pools of we get to work with as well.
Exactly. And I think going into like the picks, I mean, it's going to tell a lot of where these teams are focusing, how we're going to see them come out in game number 1. But as I always say, it's the funnest part in these best of 3s is seeing the development throughout, seeing what the meta of the series is going to be. And with all these PowerPoints, some of these especially focus on the jungle, I want to see what kind of big picks maybe squeak through. Do we see some of these kind of higher meta picks get through?
Yeah, I think that Azir is definitely one that's going to be very contested. It is the most played for Strumpus and the second most played for the side of Dark Wings. Curiously enough, though, Strumpus has one game of Orianna and one game of Syndra. There's no games of Syndra on the side of Dark Wings, but his most played, hands down, is this Orianna pick. So I think that I'm curious to see if we see the Azir Orianna handshake, or if we see some rise coming through from Strumpus, which has been trying to make his way into the meta. But Strumpus, I mean, he's played 16 unique champions throughout all of Proving Grounds, and it feels like at any time he can just pull out something for his team where they can scale late, because that's pretty much how they like to play, right? Just get through early game, get Strumpus a lot of gold, get Array a lot of gold. We're going to have a nice 2-threat comp as we go late, and we're going to win team fights from there.
Yeah, and I think especially when you're looking over on the side wings, where we have seen this matchup, we have seen that, or know at least from behind the scenes, the Dark Wings does feel a little slighted from the last time these guys came together. And I want to see what he can bring, but I need to see that stability there in the mid lane for them. I need to see Dark Wings performing well in these champions we know he can do well on. And that makes me think a little bit more about the teams as a whole and how they kind of want to at least get to the late game for both of these guys. I know that gets me super excited because I get to yell at more things and more flashy stuff on the screen for me to look at. So that's always nice. But the
Zel's for the team fights.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, you know me. If you want team fights, I'm here. But the fact of the matter is there's so many little things in those team fights that happen. And so many of these players are so mechanically gifted. And we especially put an emphasis on Raheen and Array, these two ADCs who are just so good at positioning in team fights. And that's where my little side eye is going to be when we're looking in the later parts of the game.
Yeah, and I think it's also unique just given the fact that, if Alorum isn't on Urgot or Aatrox, who are his two most played throughout all of Proving Grounds, but if he's not on those two champions, then he's usually, a tank player, right? And Cavell is very much, if he's not on Camille, he's usually playing a tank, right? He has some Narmer Nexon in there as well, but they're two very supportive top laners, and so what we end up with is two teams that really rely on that mid and AD to really put down a lot of the damage. And I'm curious to see if that ends up shaping up the way it is. I actually think it would be good for Alorum to take carrying the top lane, have a three threat comp for this matchup. And as we get closer and closer to pick ban, I am excited to see if that ends up being the case. I know that they are in pro draft at the moment, and they're just waiting for the delay so we don't have to go through spectator delay, because no one likes that. Once we get the game, I want to get the game, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There is one little caveat or one little point I want to make, especially looking at Alorum in the top lane, is we've seen this guy carry top lane. We've also seen him have a little bit of a rough time in top lane. But it doesn't matter because it all comes down to the late game influences. And we've already said his TP flanks, his kind of engagements in that fashion. But that is what gets me so excited for this guy. He's so good in general, but man, those late game decisions, that late game shot calling is just so good.
Yeah, and I think one of the really tough parts about going up against Zeus Gaming is that he does have such a different style of top lane, right? And a really different take on how that lane's played. And a lot of it is based on, he's playing stuff like Malphite Scion. In order for those picks to succeed, you need to have really good teleports into fights and find angles and find flanks and win. And Alorum's great at that. And I think a lot of other top laners that we have here in Amateur aren't nearly as good at that style. Most of them are up there because they have good mechanics and they're able to play carries in solo queue, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that dealing with that that difference is really difficult for a lot of teams, and definitely something that Supernova is going to have to deal with in this match. They managed to get the 2-1 when they went up against them in round 4 of the Cup groups, and gonna have to see if they can effectively neutralize Alorum and those deadly TPs that he has a tendency to have on the map, and if they're able to find that win again. And I'm more curious to see about the adaptions that Zoos make, because they definitely have to switch things up based on that last series.
And I just want to throw in one little factoid. I don't think we talked about it yet, but it was an 18-minute game 3. So
yes, it was the fastest game of Cup.
It is definitely looking. You got a little bit more of a chip on your shoulder there for Zeus, and we've seen them performing so well.
I have a feeling that Strumpist isn't going to get his 6-0 Seraphine this time around.
No,
that was the
Come
feature of
on.
game 3. Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening. But I think that both these teams, we talk about like the bigger ramifications, the implications. 6 weeks, grueling format in order to get here, right? These guys had to grind everything in order to make it to this point, and to see them here today and to hopefully see them succeed. All 6 weeks, just kind of banking on a best of 3 for an entire tier 1. This is hands down the highest pressure match that they have played so far. And I really want to see who steps up to the plate.
Yeah, that's just it wrenches my heart a little bit every time, because all this work, all this effort, all these stories that we've been talking about for so long, and half of it just comes to an end tonight.
It's tough.
It's going to be really rough. But as you saw, at least for a second, we will be getting to picks and bans, I'm sure, very, very soon. But as we do get ready for that, it is just about the story and the growth that we've seen from both of these squads. And Zeus, having some, I guess, non-League of Legends problems that happen, being able to come through and be this strong team still, even with all these outside influences. And then Supernova having been a mainstay of the amateur scene, still riding it out, still making it to these tier 1s, even though they barely scrape by. It is that gumption that you like to see.
Yeah, once again, for people that might be joining this, your usual Academy fans and not so much amateur, Supernova might be the most storied organization that we have here in amateur. For both Cavell and Strumpist, it's actually their 3rd stint on the roster, right? Because they've been around for so long and rosters bounce a lot in amateur. And so for them to once again, have a team that the talent is starting to work out and succeed, I would continue. But Mazel, I see that we're very deep in the draft. We got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, we do. All right. So we have, on the blue side, some bans away here. It is going to be Silas, Swain, Olaf, Senna, and Thresh taken away. So some interesting ones there.
Okay.
Some very particular picks.
I'm going to do some guessing on the pick order. All right. Okay. So we're gonna have first pick Hecarim on the blue side, and then it was probably followed up by Rel and Zaya, most likely, into Shen and Alistar. And then we see the bands, because those are very top-focused bands. I'm trying to walk through this. The Cassios definitely counter the Rise, so I think that was R5. Oh, wait, 80 carries were banned away. Yeah, so they went with Sivir.
Were. Yeah,
all right, we're trying to piece it together. So Sivir Rise would have been the B4, B5, and then the R5 would have probably been Cassio. Aatrox would have been R4. Okay, so now looking at this, I really like this team comp on the blue side for Supernova, right? You have Maddie, this carry with the Hecarim, has the ability to make plays with the Shen past level 6, and it's really tough. RBM taking this Lee Sin, this is a very risky pick, and he has to deal with a Shen and an Alistar trying to get in there and make a big impact. He really has to have a powerful impact on the map before that 2nd or 3rd recall he has, where he just starts getting drastically outscaled and out-tempoed by this Hecarim.
Yeah, exactly. And God, I love Hecarim. I'm just going to throw, I'm at ADC player.
The party pony is a good time.
It's too good. Come on.
I will say, on my recent Clash, I haven't really played ranked in like 6 months, and I got filled in jungle, and I played 2 games of Hecarim and popped off. I went like 18-3 and 18. Go. Then the other game, it was not so hot.
We'll just throw that one out. It's fine.
I was put on Skarner, definitely ran it down. Sorry to the Barrage staff.
You weren't able to
I apologize.
channel Captain Flowers? Or?
I need to watch more Captain Flowers.
Yeah, you
apparently.
do.
But it was rough. But going into this game, it looks like they're like after level 6, all the playmaking is going to be in the favor of Supernova. They have a potential for a 1-3-1 or a 4-1 setup, given the Shen and the Rise, the fact that they have a lot of power in side lanes and can impact the map. Whereas I mean, I think this really comes down. We talked about how I want Alorem on a carry. This Aatrox, it is a favorable matchup into the Shen, and if Alorem can become a beast, a really big problem, they can try and snowball through these team fights because they do have really strong engage between the Aatrox and the Rel follow-up.
They do. I just love seeing Rel in the meta, at least when she wasn't banned away every single game. But she actually gets to make it through. It's this very interesting combo of initiation plus that tankiness for your squad, and being able to sustain engage, right? You still have that Magnet Storm that can just keep everybody around. The thing that worries me is the kind of speed that seemingly is coming out from Supernova, and that response time from them is going to be key.
All right. Also, Mazel, I have just received the screenshot of pick ban.
All right.
I was so close.
Oh, no!
was R2'd. I thought Xayah would have been R2'd, but there's not much of a difference there.
You were right
R2
on the
Lee Sin,
Hecarim,
though,
at least.
that's pretty bold.
It is.
It definitely prompted the Alistar Shen to come on through. So I was close. I apologize. I need to work on my analyst guessing
How
pick
dare
ban
you,
skills.
Cubby.
Honestly, like, being a collegiate coach and like having to like go through Battlefy, they never give you like the actual pick ban, so it's actually something I've had to practice, unfortunately.
Yes.
Glad I was able to show it on the Academy stream.
Yeah,
But,
of course.
yeah, moving on through. I think it's really important to watch Zoos. You know, they need to have a good early game. They need to get ahead in these solo lanes. And I want to see Supernova, you know, really try and pull the trigger around level 6, really utilize the powerful ultimates they have on their team to make plays on the map.
And I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing, at least at this point, is you have that serious team play coming out from Supernova. They've got to wait. They've got to buy their time a little bit. You've got these high CS win conditions for their squad with these big damage potentials. On the other side, the one thing that sticks out, and you've already pointed it out a little bit, the Lee Sin. You need to look for some early advantages. You need to look for that early skirmishing. And with RBM, I mean, that's going to be pretty insane. We've seen that he needs to have a little bit of this priority in the lanes, and he could potentially have that one in this series, but they also have the damage potential coming out the back end with Raheen Xayah.
I mean, the Lilia Hecarim handshake, I'm like kind of surprised didn't go for that, especially given the fact that Lilia has been so powerful for the side of RBM, but Lee Sin, I know that this patch, you know, he did get a second off his queue at all ranks. And also, you know, being the Challenger TFT player is a 5-cost piece. So, you know, still has that going for him with the Lilia as well.
At least he's got his economy up and he can afford it, right? A couple rolls.
Yeah,
on,
I mean,
no big deal.
Ultimately, like, if he can kick members back and peel, like, that is powerful, right? Being able to kick the Hecarim out of the fight, especially, you know, when you have a Xayah, you're going to want to kite back. And also with Cassio being so low range, it is something that I actually like a lot this game. I think the Cassio fits in very well. And very surprised to see that pick coming out of Dark Wings. Usually that's something I'd expect Strumpus to pull on out. Usually a specialty up his sleeve.
But he's got his own specialty this time around. So.
He does. He has his one trick in the Rise.
He
is a fantastic Rise player, one of the best that we have on the server, and it's going to be fun to watch him pull that one out in this game.
Yeah, especially in the, again, highlighting to the late game team fights, because those realm warps are going to be key. And the other thing for me that I want to see come to fruition is Alorem on this Aatrox. You know, we've already talked, it's one of his most played, one of his best champions. We'll see how it works out. We're hitting the Rift for the first time of the united just gaming sphere of the amateur scene. We've got the unified Grand Prix kicking off now between Zeus Gaming and Supernova.
The high stakes best of 3 is upon us. Curious to see the setup. Something that I'm curious to see if Manny goes for. One clear I've been really advocating for, especially on a champion like Hecarim, is the Raptors Krugs into red. Getting those second camps to respawn faster, and then having more time where your red buff is on the map is really good. That said, I know it's a tricky clear to go for if you feel like you're under the threat of being invaded. That's something that Lee Sin definitely can do at will. I think that he is just going to opt to start for his red buff and probably get a healthy leash, so he's able to full clear. But I want to see Lee Sin do something in this first clear, right? He cannot compete with the full clear of Hecarim.
Nope.
Let's see if RBM is able to get on the map and do something good.
And it's one of the major points that we talked about going into this series is these junglers are going to be the mainstays for these teams. They need to be doing well for their teams to be doing well. And we'll see how that all works out as we do dive straight into it. But I liked the little highlight in the mid lane. We had a little fashion show going on between the Rise and the Cassiopeia. See if that turns out into anything fun.
As we do see both junglers, it's the solo queue clear, as I like to say, right? Have bot lane leash the buff and then go, have bot lane leash the buff, go through there. Seems like RBM definitely going for the single target camps. We'll see if he stops at Wolves or decides to move on to his other part. Now this bot lane, very favored for the Xayah rel early, and it's
Yeah.
good to see Rhino and Raheen driving that home. Xayah has more range. Rel's level 1 is really powerful compared to Alistar, so you can see those early trades going down. Good play coming out from the bot lane of Zeus.
It is. I love to see the aggression coming out early, especially in these kinds of situations when you do need to get some of the leads ahead, right? I mean, you're still facing up against a Rise. You're still facing up against a Sivir. Even the Hecarim later game is just going to blow people up. So you've got to get these advantages. Although RBM will be spotted out by a cheeky little ward early on by Supernova.
Yeah, and it feels like Cavell's not in the position to be punished. You can see both lanes for Supernova are playing back. They are getting pressured early. Aatrox does have a lot of priority on the lane with the Q spam if he wants to get push. So neither should be at threat to get ganked. And once again, just favors Hecarim, right? If you go for that full clear, it's good. And Lee Sin, he's trying to get involved. I said I wanted to see RBM make some early plays. He's getting in the face of the pony early.
All right, let's see. He's got the double buffs. He is here. See if he can get it. Oh, he doesn't get it, actually. It's going to be just a 1v1 fight between Maddie and Really Big Meme, but who's going to take it? It's getting really close, Covey. Here comes the rest. Oh, he walks up for the smite.
Well played.
Oh, he gets first blood. RBM making his name known here. Darkwing's now here, but a little bit late. See what RBM can get out of here. He's dead too. Stromp is going to get that kill, and Darkwing's trying to respond. Gets one of his own there too. Flashes over the wall and gets away. Chaos early, Cubby.
That was a dynamite flash coming out from Darkwings. Actually saves the play for Zeus. They find a 2-for-1. They force the TP out of Cavell immediately as he loses that bouncing wave. And it wasn't the prettiest play, but I do like to see RBM getting involved early, trying to make these plays happen. And some nice mechanical plays coming out from Zeus. Make sure they come out on top with that early trade.
And just making sure the mid lane's set up for success, right? Both of them now having their own kills available for them. And just a nice little lead being developed for either side in the mid lane. But yeah, I loved to see RBM making that engagement, making that skirmishing that we needed to see from him early. Now Maddie is looking to respond with his own gank, maybe towards the top side, decides to pull away from it. But guess who's right nearby? RBM.
Yeah, RBM has been spotted on the 2 wards. You can see Maddie.
It's just carousel.
Trying to save very far away from the Lee Sin, right? He's like, please, I do not want anything to do with you until I get some more levels and some more items under me. So going to try and make his way and potentially look mid. Darkwings doesn't have flash, and Rune Prison's really good gank assist.
Yeah, I would love to see the capitalization on the flashes being gone in mid lane. But
he's waiting.
He's waiting for a long while because it is a potential to have something. It looks like the gank did go off in mid, but not going to come to any fruition. Bot lane, though, Raheem getting a little low, gets the ignite burned on him, but will get out without burning a single summoner spell.
Good to see all the harass coming through from Array. Is going to enable Hecarim to pick up his bot side camps. And, as we continue to play this game out, I mean, I will say I really think that due to the Lee Sin pick, time is the friend of Supernova, right? Like, you have this Hecarim. The more time that you can go through and get more farm on him, more CS, definitely benefits the blue side here, as really all eyes have to be on RBM. This is a pick that we don't see a lot of for a reason, right? It's very risky, and he needs to make it pay off early.
Indeed, he does. And we'll see how that kind of transition into these objectives, as we do have our first one on the Rift, Cubby. It's an Infernal Dragon. So no Infernal Soul today, game number 1. But we do get maybe a little bit more priority on this first dragon.
We do have RBM coming to pick up the wave. It was a really good chunk that Array got down on Raheen in this matchup, which I must say, I really don't think that Saber beats the Xayah. I think that Array and G-Bunny are doing a pretty good job of laning early. And the fact that they're able to force that base and get some early pressure, very good. That said, they do have to reset here, and this should be the timer where Zeus does secure the first dragon. Supernova knows that's going to happen with the Lee Sin on the map, so they don't necessarily feel that bad about it, but definitely going to be a nice step for Zeus to pick this one up.
We'll look at it. Is started up here. No vision, but no contest going to be coming out from this side of Supernova. They will just continue to farm up and look for later fights. As we do get a pause, you get to see our beautiful faces for a little bit longer.
I don't want to see our beautiful faces. I want to see the game, man. I want to see the game,
Cubby. Whatever. I might be hurt over here. My heart. No.
Sorry. Boing Mazel, as always.
Yeah, as always.
But no, in all seriousness, I mean, the dragon going over to the side of Zeus is expected but good. Something that I actually want to see now, as we do move into this game and hopefully get out of the pause as soon as possible. We'll try and get the reason for you as soon as possible as well. they have Shen, right? If Shen gets level 6, they can go for the Australian lanes, flip things around. Alorum doesn't have access to TP. They could try and get numbers for Rift Herald and make a really positive play on the map. And we want to see if Supernova is able to execute that. They talked a lot about how more stage time with Cup has really helped them out. They made it to the quarters of Cup where they were knocked out, just like the Zoos were knocked out in the quarters as well. That was the furthest they made it in one of the tier 2s so far. And talked about how time's their friend, and those are some more improvements that we want to see out of the Supernova roster, with just seeing them take the next steps to, becoming more used to the competitive play, right?
Yeah.
Considering they have some fresh faces.
And I want to dive into that a little bit more on the side of Supernova too, because we talked a little bit about their development, their growth throughout this, and being this core amateur team that has still been in these proving ground circuit this far into it. They had to reconcile a little bit with some of the problems they were having. They had to kind of step back and figure out what worked best for them. And I love to hear from the coaching staff, from these members, that they need that direction. They need that directive from this structure that they've brought in for Supernova. And I want to see that come to fruition. I want to see this go further for them, because having scraped through Cup, it was not a great time for them. They felt confident and felt good that they made it through, but it wasn't necessarily the performance that they wanted to do.
They made quarters as the 16 seed, which I think it was crap. They were the 16 seed coming into that as the lowest ranked team, but they still, they went 3-1, right? They made quarters, and once they got matched up, I believe they were up against EGP. We didn't expect for them to win that one. EGP is still the strongest LCS affiliated team that we have here in amateur. But they still had a good showing, put their best foot forward, and it's good to see a team with so many young players on it really making those steps to improve.
Yeah, exactly. As a whole, the organization as well, right? They talked about putting in this flagpole of structure for themselves, trying to make sure that everything is battened down and that they do have these plans going forward for these teams or these players. Because one of the things was like the focus wasn't necessarily all there. The directive wasn't there, as we kind of talked about already. But to have that and kind of refocus in on what this means to the players, what this means to the squad, is big for me. And I'm hoping they can prove that tonight.
Yeah, obviously, this is a match with huge ramifications, right?
Yeah.
We played 6 weeks to qualify for this Tier 1, and 4 of the teams that are playing today are going to be sent home immediately, right? Just off a best of 3.
So looking at the bracket.
Yeah. It feels really bad, but also, part of amateur, right, is getting battle tested. These guys are playing 4+ best of 3s a week, best of 5s if you're doing well, right? Barrage is coming off of 2 best of 5s that just went the distance and Cup the last 2 days. Hopefully they're able to make it through the best of 3 today, and aren't too burned out. But it's part of going through the fire. I know, talking with a lot of the old pros, sitting down with Lorem and talking about the old days of NACS and the OQs. At least it's not that, right?
The thing, and I don't want to be harsh here, but we are here to figure out who the best of the best in amateur is, right? And there's no holding punches. You've got to be able to perform the best that you can on the day, on the stage. And if that doesn't happen, then unfortunately you're going to be seen out. But I think that a lot of these teams have gotten so much experience from this and will learn so much moving forward for this as well.
Yeah, and ultimately, the fact that these teams now have the chance to not only scrim academy teams, but also, for those that are joining us on the Slash Academy, just the reformat of the schedule means that a lot of the academy teams are actually scrimming with some of the amateur teams, right? The top of the table. And it's more exposure for them, for the scouts, for these players. And I think that if you're in academy, you're really playing for something with proving grounds. Teams like No Oregon, Barrage, we expect them to go pretty far in proving grounds and have a really good matches against academy teams and probably get the best of a lot of them. And so I think it's good, especially with all the youth that we have coming into academy this year as well, that we have amateur now that has veteran rosters like Doklo, Apollo, Zazel, and Tuesday, right? They're on a team, right? So overall, it just creates a more competitive ecosystem. And, the goal of everything is for the cream of the crop to rise to the top as always. And it's a lot more fun when you have better competition. So
it definitely
looking forward to some good games.
Yeah, I am as well. As I believe we're going to be diving right back into the action as the unpause is going to be coming through here.
Get our ugly mugs off the screen.
Just get it away. Yeah. At some point we will be getting the game back, but it's been just a few minutes into the game. I believe we're right around that 6-minute mark where the dragon has just been taken. So we had that early. I want to kind of go over a little bit of what we've seen so far. We said we wanted to see RBM invade or get some skirmishing on the Lee Sin. What does he do? Level 3, he's there. He's got double buffs. He tries to fight with the jungle there, trying to steal the blue away from Maddie, but he didn't get the blue. Still got the kill. Kills went to the mid laners, so now we've got 1-0 mid laners. And as the dragon goes down, we're going to be getting back into the game.
Is that a realm warp top? Yes, it is. Stromp is
think
up
it
top
is,
with
yeah.
the Hecarim.
Oh, man, the big brain here coming right out of the pause.
Oh, no.
Alorum is going to have to flash away, uses the blast cone beautifully, and Strumpus can't
no.
respond on the other side. So a lot used in the top lane, but Alorum is still going to get out.
Yeah, that's so many resources burned to the top lane. I mean, that's a 3-minute cooldown now on Realm Warp. They can't make that play again, and Alorum just says, all right, peace, I'm slipping and sliding right on out of here, right? Pop the wings, he goes fast and is able to get over the terrain. So that's really big, the fact that they're able to dodge out on that play. Alorum is continuing to buy time up here. Alorum oftentimes was pitched as a great weak side player in LCS. Nice to see him showing that off here in Amateur in this game.
And I loved it because Maddie wanted to make a return gank towards top lane, decided better of it. Alorum was playing a little bit too safe, but you can see the want is there from Maddie. Maddie has spent a ton of time towards this top side of the map already.
Yeah, I mean, Strumpus is still trying to spend a ton of time. I mean, they're really going for this, and I think at this point, like, Maddie feels really bad on the Hecarim right now. Like, because he's been pressured out early, he's only even in camps with the Lee Sin. That cloth armor and longsword, that's not the sheen that you want on Hecarim to really start the power clearing going. Definitely needs to play catch up here as he is getting to his bot side camps and trying to get to that level 6 mark where him and Shen can start to really make some plays around the map. And my eyes, Darkwing still doesn't have flash. They have a small window where they might be able to punish there, and if they aren't able to execute in the mid lane, I fully expect for them to all-in bot here rather soon.
You would have to expect something is going to go down on the bot lane, especially with a little bit of that focus we put on it. But I have to put the onus back on RBM here. He's on the Lee Sin. Yes, he got a little bit of early skirmishing, but he needs to get back on the map. He needs to get back in the face of Maddie and not just let him keep power farming.
We can see RBM, it feels like Zeus, they're smelling the play bot as well. Lee Sin is pathing top to bot. They're trying to get back on this side of the map. This does open things up now that it is past the 8-minute mark. Once again, I talked about how I'd love to see Supernova kind of go for the Australian lanes, threaten the fact that you can have a Stand United join a Rift Herald fight at any time from the bot lane, while Alorum still has TP down. So I wish that, you know, after this push, they can try and reset the waves. I know Cavell is basing right now, and Sivir can push at will. So curious to see if Supernova goes for that map setup. I think it really favors them at the moment.
Indeed, as we do see the blue buff's going to be given over to either of them.
Go bot!
It's fine. It's fine. But, you know, just a steady early game from the side of Supernova. And yes, they had that little bit of deficit early, but this is exactly where you want to be. You're not losing too badly this early on. You're trying to get to that scaling portion for yourself. Maddie wants to get a little bit further ahead up here. Stadium
here we go.
already going in. See what can happen here as the Alorum gets knocked back. This taunt's going to come through. He's getting a lot of healing. But those sweet spots are not going to be enough. Who's going to get the kill? And it's Maddie. As we do see Petrifying Gaze come out, but it didn't even get the stun. RBM's the one that gets the kill, and a response from Zeus.
Stromp is caught out in rotation. Good find from Zeus, as I know Alorum does go down to the top lane, but a lot of resources were burned, including the Stand United, the fact that they only have to commit the Lee Sin ult in order to get that kill on Strompus, and the fact that they also rotated bot lane up. This is the play I wanted to see Supernova make with the Shen. Zeus, they do it first, and they're able to secure the Rift Herald as well. Zeus playing the map much better early.
And highlighting the fact that the objectives are important for Zeus to win this game. They need to get the control over the map. They need to have these advantages given to themselves when you're getting to the late game portions of it. You do leave Array down on the bot side as a Sivir to keep farming up, but you do still have a very nice pressure in the top lane after that swap.
We do have a replay as this was caught off cam. Let's see what RBM does here. Oh, man, no flash even needed. Hey, Trumpus was throwing out Qs in the fog. He had no vision, and RBM just takes advantage of that. He says, you can't see me. I might be blind, but I can see you. I'm going to put you right back into the Cassiopeia, take you down.
Sometimes I feel like Lee Sin has the Rek'Sai passive just innately into his game. Something just knows. But yeah, it's a great start for RBM. And even so, Darkwings on this Cassiopeia.
I mean, great start for both solo laners, Zoo, right? Cassio's sitting at 1-0-1, but look at the CS lead that Alorum has cracked open as well. And even now he's being pitted up against the Sivir lane. There's a really awkward lane state here for Supernova. Alorum, he's going to base and reset that and try and get back into the Shen. With this gold lead, he should be able to really push around Shen in this matchup.
You see already some advantages coming through for Zeus here. He did see a roam potentially from G Bunny, but not going to be able to pull it off as Darkwings was setting up for the back. We do have another dragon spawning. It will be a Cloud Dragon, and it's already Supernova in front of the pit.
This is curious that Supernova's going for this. I don't think this is a great timing for them to fight. They don't have access to Stand United. Yes, they have control of the river. RBM is called out top, so I'm not sure if they have vision of that, but I'd say that they're going to get away with a little bit of highway murder here. Going to take this dragon. Not going to be contested by Zeus, and that's really big for Supernova, right? We talked about how we really feel like time is their friend, considering they have a Hecarim going into a Lee Sin. The Rise and Sivir scale really well throughout the game.
That's tower, maybe.
Yeah, it is a tower,
Yep, that's it.
But the fact they deny that dragon is still going to buy them more time. That said, Zeus still find a very positive point on the map. Good trade funneling gold into Alorum. If he's able to become a problem in the side lane, he can get really tough to deal with as the game goes on and be a medicine team fights as well. So I feel like both teams finding a little bit of what they want in the Rift here.
And honestly, the calls from Zeus have been so good this early on. I mean, getting that Rift Tower play, getting the reset going bot. Now we get the fight bot lane. Onslaught of Shadows does nothing there, as it will be Maddie falling first. RBM did get the flash out of Array as well. And Zeus, all of a sudden, just keeping the pressure up down here, have transitioned to focusing the bot lane.
RBM's getting involved early, and with the help of Darkwings making some nice plays is... Oh, no.
Alorum is too good, dude. He's too good. He just knew. He smelled it out, popped the World Ender immediately, out of there.
All right. I'm going to choose to ignore that and just talk about the bot lane play.
That's all we get from you, Communist.
I mean, that's the second play. They just tried to run down the Aatrox. They can't do it. Stropus is falling short. He blows the flash for no reason as well, and Alorum is buying so many resources for Zeus across the map, and I mean, even that top lane pressure, that's what snowballed into that bot lane play, right? Stand United was up, but Cavell couldn't leave. It would have been canceled by the Aatrox. So big wins coming in as they're now going to force another flash. They're taking control of this bot side jungle. It's looking really grim for Supernova all of a sudden. They need to make a big play in the side lane in order to come back.
We've already got Mythics coming through. Two Gore Drinkers already completed for RBM and Alorum. They're going to be feeling really good. That's why you're seeing RBM pressing up like this, stealing the red, getting this invasion, getting these little advantages, and they are rolling the map right now. But we see the response from Supernova, stopping the back from Pocket Rhino. Does get the Blast Cone over the wall, as G Bunny is all by his lonesome out there. He might be turned into hamburgers at this point. You do have Sivir over the edge, but it's not going to work out. Oh, but he's using the expert brush play here. RBM finally, maybe you want to get the kill. Nope, it goes to Darkwing.
Oh, boy. So G Bunny and Pocket Rhino kind of going into this match. They both had the highest death percentage of their teams in Challengers Uprising groups, the last Tier 2 we had. Not to say that, you know, these guys are big playmakers. Sometimes that goes good, sometimes that goes bad, as we are going to see Rhino make a play here. And I know that it's only on the minimap, but look at Shen versus Aatrox, right? Shen is never in the position to stand united here. I believe it's just not off cooldown until now as well, so this is perfect timing coming out from the side of Zeus. Yeah, stand united just came off cooldown, so great timing. They have the man advantage. They're able to make another play. And I know that, you know, I was a little bit nervous about the Lee Sin pick, but RBM, I must say, is making this pay off early, especially with the help of Alorum just eating so many resources of Supernova. They haven't been able to do anything else around the map.
It's been quite impressive, and the little thing there that meant so much to me, and maybe it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but Maddie getting stopped during his devastating charge put him a little bit further away from the carries than he wanted to be, and that's what brought out the Onslaught of Shadows. So these kinds of little advantages being won by Zeus are so nice, and Pocket Rhino is also performing really well on this rel.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that this game is so gloom and doom now, too, I mean, look at RBM taking this romp. Hecarim losing access to his camps this early, it means that he's never really going to become the champion that we are so used to seeing Hecarim in this meta. So the fact that Zeus is making this happen, another play that Stropus makes with the port, are they going to make this one happen? Oh, no.
They can't get the CC layer down or the distance layer.
Oh, man. These Realm Warps, they've been proactive, but just falling a bit short on the range. Not able to make good things happen so far, and I mean, look at the punishment that Zeus laying down across the map. That's the top lane inner taken, now the mid lane outer. Hakram has no access to his camps. This is looking pretty gloom and doom for Supernova, as it is a 6K gold lead for Zeus Gaming.
Yeah, you've just got all the pressure in the world towards the top side of the map for Zeus Gaming. They've gotten the tier 2 in the top side. They've gotten the tier 1 in the mid. Yes, they haven't really gotten a lot of damage on the bot side, but that's kind of as expected as the lane has been playing out for Array and G-Bunny down there. But they still get to have this free farm wave for Raheen, who is the Xayah, who still can put up with a Sivir in the late game, still have this damage potential for him. So I'm excited to see how these next few minutes play out, especially around this Ocean Dragon, where we do have the Ocean Soul in this matchup, and want to see who takes that first lead towards that.
I think one of the really interesting parts of this game for me, Mazel, as this Ocean should go over to the side of Zeus uncontested, as I don't think Supernova, they need to trade this for just gold on Shen or something.
So
they can't fight this. But it was the Herald swap, right? The fact that Zeus was able to pull that off first and the play on Alorum failed beforehand. When they gave up that Dragon, they got so much gold and pressure in return on the map. I know that Supernova is trying to slow down the game. Getting a Dragon for them is pretty important, but all the gold going over to Alorum, it just made this matchup unplayable for Shen. He can't have an impact on the map, and from there, Zeus has really driven it home to be a massive lead. As Rhino, is he caught out? They're going for a play.
They get the taunt onto him. There's the Magnet Storm coming out. He flashes over the wall, and now all was said and done in that aspect. The Dragon went down. Zeus was able to claim it, and they are continuing to pressure up. Looks like they will just back off a little bit. Although Supernova are the ones kind of looking for it here. They do get Alorum, but he's stunned up. He's very tanky. He's getting very low, though. You have the Onslaught of Shadows on the back line, but it's Supernova getting wiped. Maddie was fighting away from the team, and it ends up in all of them getting wiped off. You have no carries left on the board. Your chess pieces are all gone and dusted, and Maddie is chased down by Alorum. Can he get him? He gets out by the skin of his teeth, but Zeus continuing to roll this game.
Supernova, they saw Dark Wings in the bot lane. They said, guys, we have a 5v4, but the Stand United was already down. They didn't have the tools to make that play, and not to mention the pockets of Zeus are so big that's just going to accelerate the game even further into disaster. Now Zeus, they get Kelly, the Snowball Rift Herald. They can drop that to try and pressure these inhibitor turrets as well, and Zeus, they have looked dominant in this early game, and if you are Supernova, you really have to think about a new game plan to what are you going to do to stop from getting blasted early?
Yeah, let's look at this team fight, though, as we get to see the engagement all on Pocket Rhino.
Yeah, Rhino, he was going for the play, gets caught out. But I mean, he burns Flash for Stand United, right? That's so worth it for the side of Zeus. And I mean, from here, RBM just wreaking havoc in the back line, and Raheen is so far ahead with his pockets. I mean, it's just gloom and doom for Supernova, right?
Pocket Rhino, after like that initial engagement, was just waiting over the wall to come over and just... Oh, man, the re-engagement from him is so good. And Alorum was the initial target in all of that. Makes it out with almost all of his health bar back intact.
Yeah, I also just want to credit RBM. He has the guts to take this Lee Sin pick. It's looked pretty good. And for someone that, played collegially at MSU, was known as a Kha'Zix one-trick a little bit, pulling out Lee Sin on a stage like this and kind of wrecking house in the early game. I know that Supernova, they made a couple blunders in the top lane that really helped the side of Zeus accelerate this, but still looking good on the Wii and looking like his mechanics are still pretty clean despite climbing that TFT ladder earlier in this Proving Ground season. So
indeed, we'll see how greedy he wants to get here, though. He's walking in all the pulverized misses, gets the headbutt, goes over the wall. Lauren pops World Ender. They've got a 4v3 here, but the TP is going to come in from Dark Wings. The health bar is getting very low for Zeus, but so are the health bars for Supernova, and the reinforcements have arrived. Supernova just getting wiped again. Dark Wings picking up a killing spree. Featherstorm comes out. Raheen is on a rampage now as well, and game one is all Zeus Gaming.
The pockets are just too big at this point. I don't think the gold lead's quite... Yeah, that's true. I don't think the gold lead is quite 57K to 29K, but I'm going to guess that's a 37 coming on through. It's 8K gold. They're going to pressure the inhibitor turret, and nothing more BM than a 20-minute Baron coming on through here for Zeus Gaming.
They're going to immediately turn onto it. It will just burn down so quickly. They've gotten the items they need to have this kind of sustained damage already. And we see it go down. This will be just a reset and a redeploy by Zeus Gaming.
I mean, at this point, Mazel, we should start talking about game two.
We do. We have to.
Game one's pretty wrapped up here. I think that Supernova, like, the idea of what they have is good, but I don't know why they were trying to attack the Aatrox in the top lane, right? Go bot, get the Sivir ahead. Try and get a 1-3-1 setup, right? Like, where you can just buy time for Sivir to farm and get to this late game.
I guess the thought to me was like, you have this late game insurance policy in the Rise in the Sivir, so you want to focus maybe the one thing that can get Zeus ahead early game, which was out Alorum on this Aatrox, but it just didn't work out. The time and time again we saw it, and you even highlighted it earlier, so close, but that only works in horseshoes and hand grenades.
Now it doesn't work on the wings that Alorum was spreading.
Yeah.
Fun fact, actually, Dark Wings does play Aatrox as well, but I think Alorum chose to take the Dark Wings this game. He's like, nope,
so
that's
too.
mine.
Yeah,
Aatrox,
mine.
it is his second most played throughout all of Proving Grounds.
It is.
Definitely a big pick for Zeus Gaming in this one, and Alorum definitely showing up as... I want to say that, like, by him not dying, kind of won the game. In a weird state, right?
I agree completely, and we see the siege coming up. You still have Strumpus pushing up topside, trying to get that tower. Does get the tower, but his base is kind of in tatters at this point. And looking down towards the spot side, Pocket Rhino
Nice
overextends just a little bit under tower, but he gets out with his life. We'll see the re-engagement of the tower here when the minions crash. Still have a couple Baron buffs up over here, still looking to pressure up as much as they can, but the response is here from Strumpus and Co. to stop the siege.
Ocean Dragon's on the table. You can tell that Zeus, they don't want to waste the Baron buff going for that. They know how much they can push, but I say that considering the fact that Rhino did get chunked on out in that one, they might take a step back as still playing aggressively on this Rel pick. Rhino stepped into this team for Big League as Breezy did go to C9 Amateur. Previously TLA, former duo key partner with Double Lift as well, kind of how he got his name with mechanics. Definitely still has to work on a little bit of like his map positioning and which engages he ends up taking, as those can be risky, but very promising player mechanically as Dark Wings.
He face checks the bush and dies. I mean, that's going to be a big pickup. That's a lot of gold, but it doesn't matter. That Magnet Storm is huge. Onslaught of Shadows onto the backline by Maddie, but it really doesn't do what it needs to do.
Watch
Alorum
Array.
is still
Watch
popping
Array.
shots here. Yeah, Strop is getting really low, but Array is still alive. You've got couple carries left on Supernova, but they're flashing away. They're running for the hills. And it looks to be an even trade here for both sides, but the siege is going to continue, and that's the hard part about this because they still have Baron buff.
I mean, that's like one of those fights where if you're Supernova, that feels good going into game 2. Like, hey, we actually found an angle as the Strumpus does go down. But it was a good fight for Array, right? Being in the choke, a lot of protection. The bouncing blades can do a lot of damage, but the pockets are just too big on the side of Zeus Gaming, and they're still going to be able to take the inhibitor despite the 2-for-2 trade, just bullying their way in with their pockets and health bars.
Yeah, and you can expect now, after both inhibs being taken towards this mid and bot side, we will get a focus towards the top side for Zeus and continuing to try and push this advantage early on, just so they make sure they don't make it to those 30-35 minute fights, as we do get a replay here.
Yeah, I mean, Darkwing's getting picked off immediately here. It's a nice setup from Supernova. He does have the sweeper, but he's not respecting the combo coming on in. And
oh, man.
I mean, once again, this is a dream fight for Supernova, right? Maddie giving us a 3-man ult in the back line. You have Array that, you know, he's getting peeled for rather well, right? Able to use the Gale Force and just pump out as much damage as he can, but the pockets are just way too big. As you can see, Alorum took negative damage that fight.
Yeah, you can see like the damage potential there when you get into these chokeholds, when you get into these situations with the damage from Strumpus, with those bouncing blades, as you're saying, there's just the damage from Sivir in general. But it's just as the pocket's too deep. We'll keep the trend going. Strumpus just gets eliminated there, unfortunately.
Found out by the feathers. I will credit Array's positioning in that team fight. I thought it was superb using the terrain. Braheen also had a good team fight as well. Obviously, with a lot of... I know that it's a 3-threat comp for Zeus this game. Arguably 3.5 for Louis Sin. But with Alorum playing a lot of tanks, right? A lot of the damage does fall onto the shoulders of Darkwings and Raheen.
It does.
As well as Strumpus and Array for Supernova. So it is good that we see glimpses of both of those players. Potential to play out these team fights and their positioning. That said... Still gloom and doom for Supernova, right? It was a good fight. You know, you take that one to the bank, you're like, all right, if we find that engaged next game, we feel really good about that. But we are down 10k gold, and that feels pretty bad.
And they're still being pressured on all sides at this point. Top lane, obviously the focus for Zeus, trying to get that third inhib down. But it's just the fact that you have to find where to draw the line in the sand for Supernova. But the line is kind of skewed at this point. You don't know. It's dusty outside. It's windy. You can't see where you're drawing it. Because there's so many pressure points coming in through Zeus Gaming.
I'm just letting the minions do some work here. They do have Barons spawning in about 30 seconds, so they might just wait to retreat and do that. They would burn it extremely quickly with a Kraken Slayer Zaya and a Leandri's Torment on the Cassio. So still an option for them. Do respect Zeus for trying to play this one out clean, just denying the camps, letting the super minions do their job. Whereas Supernova probably still be talking about game 2.
Yeah, they're in comms right now talking about what can we do differently. I still think it's interesting though because we got a lot of these strong picks, right? Maybe the Sivir a little bit different from some of the meta ADCs that we've been seeing here, but you got Strumpus Rise, you got the Hecarim, which is just so strong right now. Even the Shin for that team play support, and Alistair as well, a good engager, a good setup, but you just don't have that setup for yourself.
I mean, like,
they're committing.
Okay. I guess they're all winning outside the base. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Magnet Storm's used. Pocket Rhino getting low, but he gets away from the fight as well. There's the Onslaught of Shadows in the back. Will claim Pocket Rhino, but that Feather Storm, the recall, the Petrifying Gaze, the Wombo combos are too much, Cubby. As Maddie finds a return, he gets a couple kills, but he will go down eventually, and that is the ace for Zeus Gaming.
The ace and the game, a beautiful ult coming in from Darkwings. I believe it was a flash ult coming on through, picks off both carries left for Supernova. They know the game's over. They're going to explode that Nexus a little bit early on their terms. Game 1 going over to Zeus Gaming.
What a incredible game number 1 from Zeus there, and some things to work on, some things to change up for Supernova going into game number 2. There's a lot riding on this series, and that was not the performance you want to have.
Yeah, I mean, RBM's path to get in the face of Maddie, I think that Supernova didn't really plan properly around that. They weren't expecting the blue buff roam to come on out, and they end up getting a 2-for-1. The play is on Alorum, just, mind controlling them to come top and then getting out for free. Pretty nice on his part as well. And when that all falls apart, so many resources burned for nothing, Zeus just took over the map.
They absolutely did. We'll have to see what changes for Supernova going into game number 2, or if Zeus just slam home a 2-game win here. It goes to a little break, and on the other side, we will have the analyst desk to break that game down.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We just wrapped up game 1 between Supernova and Zeus Gaming. And, to be frank, a couple of us are definitely surprised by the results, but not Mike Young, because he predicted Zeus Gaming to win the whole matchup. Apparently, we're just going to get gabbed by our guest analyst on the day. But, there's a lot of things to break down. I think the biggest thing that we do have to own in on was this Lee Sin matchup into the Hecarim here, Mike.
Yeah, I think this Lee Sin pick was pretty good here, especially with the level 3 invade on the blue to shut down the Hecarim. That was actually pretty free Could have got the blue too, but we take those. We got the kill on the Hecarim, slows
We
down,
take those.
slows down the Hecarim power spike. And then also when you play Lee Sin and aggressive jungler with 3 winning lanes, 2 winning lanes at least from mid and bottom, that's already a win.
Yeah, you can literally have just plugged and played any champion right there for RBM, and he's like, hell, what is Hecarim going to do? He's like, oh, I really want to farm. Well, guess what? My mid laner is able to just roam anytime he wants. My top laner can come at any time he can. And this is really good for the side of Zeus Gaming because this is a champion we've never seen for RBM. Lee Sin is definitely not in that wheelhouse. We had talked about it a little bit, and I know the casters on the desk were talking about it. This guy is literally Hecarim and Lilia. He is perma-farming.
And
he is
Udyr.
looking to just try. Yeah, exactly. He is going to just try and get as much gold, as many camps as possible, go for the early Drakes. And I love the early objectives that they were going for on the side of Zeus Gaming because they just made really great use of their priority. I'm a big fan of that, and I'm looking to Supernova. What is their answer to this? Is there going to be a better mid matchup? They will probably pick red side, so they'll have counter pick. They cannot allow this to keep happening. It was like, as soon as we saw that Lee Sin level 3, we were like, oh, is this really going to be the Lee Sin game where like RBM just completely tears apart the jungle and all of our narratives, it's gone. We have no script now, man.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that's really cool about the evolution of RBM's story here in Proving Grounds, right? Because when he came in as a replacement for Zeus Gaming, he was someone that we just figured, oh, okay, well, he's prioritizing these farm junglers and like you said, Udyr, Lilia, Hecarim, and he's just trying to get to level 6 as fast as possible, look for his first item, wake up, and the only thing that he can do or prioritizes is early dragon control, something that's super easy with a couple of those junglers in Udyr and Olaf, but historically, we've seen him get invaded upon and get pushed out, and that's how people have been able to take it to Zeus Gaming. But this time around, with the Lee Sin pick, and like you said, Alec, it could have been any aggressive jungler, but just the fact that now is in his pool completely changes how Supernova have to draft, because no longer they can safely assume, oh, we're just going to handshake on both having farming junglers, and then Maddie's going to be more proactive. Now, it might be up to Maddie to see if he can reach into his pockets, because we know he has some aggressive picks of his own, Mike. And now if you are looking, and if you're the jungler on Supernova's side, does this mean that you are no longer prioritizing a jungle within the first pick and ban phase and waiting for the second round? Or is there a jungler in mind that you feel like would be able to match up even against the likes of Lee Sin early on?
I definitely think that the lane matchups are going to be really crucial because that game, Zoo had 3 winning priority lanes and a winning jungler. So they're going to definitely need to switch up one thing or the other. So either early game jungler or early game laners, because it looks like the snowball just happened way too fast.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the draft pulled up on my side. Like, Rel gets through, right? And we're first picking Hecarim, which is not the worst. But then we see Kaisa makes it all the way through the draft phase. We see that we're prioritizing a lot of Alistar instead. And I know both of these teams do not want to play Seraphine. It was also banned for Zoo. So where exactly... I also found it very weird that Supernova were willing to just blind out Shen. They already have their Alistar. You can make sure, like, hey, maybe G-Bunny hasn't played a lot of it, but keep that flexibility open to you. For Zoo, there's nothing else that we can say. It is literally, you had 3 winning lanes. Good job, RBM. I'm sure this probably won't happen again. If it does, then great job. You somehow mind-controlled Supernova to give you these drafts.
Yeah, it's definitely thrown a lot of us off the loop in terms of what we were expecting Zeus Gaming to do, but the evolution is definitely something to be celebrated, especially for RBM as a jungler. And as we are getting ready for game 2, we're just kind of waiting on the players to load into the draft. Just kind of getting last thoughts here, starting with Alc, and then we'll go to you, Mike. If you're in this situation, and when we look at the prior draft, which trying to pull up again, I wanted to see, we had Hecarim, Alistar, Shen, as you pointed out, but the Kaisa fell all the way through the draft. Is this a change where we probably see bottom lane being prioritized first and grabbed on the board for Supernova, or are they going to go for a similar picking jungler, support, and top lane again?
When I look at this feels like Supernova were trying something a little bit different. Maybe with Sivir hasn't seen too much play, at least in amateur yet. And obviously I like it here in certain positions, but this is a stylistic change for Supernova that we have not seen before. They are the ones that are playing away from their top laner. They have a much supportive, playing that Karma, playing that Shen up in top lane. Take that away from them. Go bot lane, attack the mid lane, make sure that Dark Wings is in a really uncomfortable spot because Strumpus is a gold vacuum. He will just get all of the gold. He gets all these items, comes into team fights incredibly ready, has all of his items, and he just is a monster. So for Supernova, I think that our gut reaction is probably going to be the same to theirs as, okay, let's go back to what we found success on. Let's play through our bot lane. Let's maybe pick a better bot lane pair for us that will give us some priority and at least have a winning kind of fight versus this bot lane. Because giving Relzaya is very difficult to play against if you're going to be playing Alistar. You need to get out of that lane as soon as possible. We didn't see too much of that roaming coming out from G-Bunny.
As for the other team, the Zeus Gaming, I think that now that they have the momentum and already the first win, just go ham. Just draft the strongest early game jungler, strongest early game lanes, have priority, and just literally do repeat.
Just win. Just win.
Yeah.
Is Mike Young's advice. Just win.
Yeah,
All right.
just win lane, win the game.
Easy.
It's definitely a lot easier said than done, but like you said, when it comes to the conversation about momentum, that's something that for more seasoned teams in Academy and LCS, sometimes momentum is easily conserved, but it doesn't shake mentality of amateur players. But for Supernova, you have a leader in Strompest who has played in Academy and has been around at the competitive scene for a very long time. Whereas for Supernova, yes, you have bright stars in Array and Maddie, but they are definitely more fresh in terms of when it comes to big stakes like games, because we have to remind the audience here that this first matchup is a single elimination. So if Supernova were to lose this next match, then they're done. Their run here in Tier 1 for the Unified Grand Prix, and they would have to wait until the second Tier 1 tournament, which will be starting for Wisdom a couple weeks out from now. So for Supernova, I'm looking to Strompus to seeing what he and the coaches can do to kind of give a good mentality check for Supernova here, try to get them back on their feet and saying, hey, you know what? Okay, they surprised us with the least in aggression. Let's just make sure now that we have what it takes to be able to throw it back. But before we throw it to casters, we are currently experiencing a little bit of delay in the draft starting up. So we're just going to throw it to a quick break. And when we return, Zell and Cubby will take you through game 2.